we're back in the orange circle, and all I can hear is loving you lots and lots from that thing you do. Because of course that store back there is where that movie was filmed. Not to mention the back cover of one of my albums. Kind of strange being out here because there's been a transformation. Slowly but surely over the last couple of years, the orange circle went from a very old lady-ish place to visit to a very, very hipstery one. So many more little boutiques and eateries, and there's teenagers running around everywhere. It's weird, it always had sort of nice small town vibes going on down here. But now it's like gentrification vibes, you know? Weird. Not that it's bad necessarily, it's just very, very different. Like the old Rod's Liquor where I used to get my Mountain Dew is now an upscale eatery with bird cages in the window and other finery. Stores that used to see maybe 7 or 8 customers in a whole day are now full of people who look like they also spend a lot of time shopping at Urban Outfitters. When I was growing up here, there were a lot of businesses that really hadn't changed much since the 1950s or 60s, including the beauty school Allie went to on the corner right there. So this has all just been the last 2 or 3 years, this rapid change. Luckily for me, a few of the old school favorites are still holding on, and that includes some of my favorite antique stores, and that is why I'm down here. Like I said, there's a lot of antique stores, and I don't want to play favorites, but if you only have time for 2, make this one of them, because the Orange Circle Antique Mall rules. Masks on. Ooh, see? Would you look at the size of this place? Oh, do you know what that is? That's a helium balloon inflator, Allie. You put your helium tank underneath, then the nozzle comes out here and blows up your 4th of July. Balloons! What I like about this booth that is owned by Moonshine Vintage, by the way, is that there's always something in it that I had at my grandma's house. One or the other of them. Dude, that's a sick chain lamp. Remember chain lamps? Now, really, we're down here in the Orange Circle to go in a different antique store. I can just never walk by without coming inside for at least a little bit. Dude, look at this. This was the old tiki booth. Speaking of changes, it's gone. This is where the haunted ship's wheel was. Memories. I love vintage stuff. Any vintage stuff. Old shirts, old comic books, but especially old hand-painted, very important, signs. Something that is very relevant to what I've been doing at home that I'll show you once we get out of here. Dude, check out this clarinet. Now, I don't want to brag and sound like too cool of a guy, but I did actually play clarinet in junior high school, which, trust me, got me a lot of dates with myself. I could get the clarinet, and then I could give you this almost a tambourine, and we could start a band. This one's got some cool stuff. Look at this. We got Sharkmobile right here. Heavy metal cassettes. Oh, wind-up Ninja Turtles. Old school. Oh, murder weapons. Oh, dude. There's a lot of great stuff right here. Just in the space of 4 or 5 feet. So many wonderful things. Oh my gosh, remember these? Those were the kind of things that like your elderly relative will be like, I got you a video game for Christmas, and you're all excited. You're like, oh, the unfun kind. Look at this. Fake Tyler? Alright, there's about 1 jillion things I would like to look at in this place, but we gotta be moving on down the street, because there is actually a point to being down here today. For the last several months, Allie and I have been hoping to get into the fray. We've got a ton of stuff we've accumulated over the last couple of years, and a ton of stuff that I had even before I met her. Not to mention all kinds of sick new Randomland merch. Hey, that looks just like the TV we had when I was little. Plus stuff that I've been making that nobody's ever seen before. Basically, enough stuff all put together that we have been strongly considering. No, actually, more like actively waiting to get our very own booth. This is where we're trying to make it happen. My other favorite spot down here, the Antique Station. You may remember for the longest time, we actually had some Randomland swag here in the very back in my friend's booth. Well, actually, I shouldn't call it a booth. It's basically just one of these display cases where he sold old Disney stuff and some stuff for Bob Gurr, like autographed posters. Well, obviously that display case is no longer there, but that person still has a booth here, so you still can get that official Bob Gurr merch right over here. As you can see, what happened is my buddy did a major booth upgrade. And even though they offered me to keep selling pins and different stuff in their new booth, I figured, you know what, you're going with this whole theme, like we don't really fit in. And then I was kind of tempted because it's been sort of a bucket list thing for me to get my own booth here. And so for months now, we've actually been on the list. Unfortunately, or well, fortunately for some people, unfortunately for me, as you saw outside, the Orange Circle has become sort of hipster central lately. It's like really busy out there. And so none of the people who have booths here have left in that time. I was coming down here to sort of check on the status of things, and it looks like that's still going to be the case for at least another couple months. But over the years of living down here and just always generally being around whether or not I lived over here, I've made more than one friend who happens to have a booth in this place. And one of them just made me an offer while we're waiting for our own booth that I might not be able to refuse. I'm pretty sure that in a couple of days, the same day the masks come off actually down here, we are going to start putting stuff in this booth. It won't be our booth yet, so it won't be all our stuff, you know. But this is where it's gonna go down. Allie has so much vintage stuff to sell. We've got all that stuff that we were gonna garage sale. Actual antiques and weird things I've discovered on my journeys. And some handmade custom stuff. I think we're at least gonna take one wall, maybe one of these big shelves at first, see how it goes, and if it goes well, then when that next space opens up, and I think I know which one it is, but it's gonna be a couple more months, we'll upgrade to the full-on Randomland booth, or the Live Fast Die store. Yuck, 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 yuck. So it's going to be all the way in the back here. I think it's space 114 technically, but it's going to look different. This is like a serious bucket list thing for me. I've spent hours and hours and hours in this place, which is probably why I'm on a first-name basis with most of the people in here. And now it's finally happening. We might be a part of things. Dude, I am stoked, because I'll usually take any excuse I can get to be down here wandering around the antique stores. I'm also glad it's lining up with when the mask restrictions are dropping for inside the store here. Because I don't know if you've noticed anything, but over the last year wearing this thing on my face, it always befuddles my fuddling speech when I'm trying to fuddle, and then I get bamboozled and I'm too boozled to bam. Anyway, if it all goes according to plan as is, we'll be back here in about 3 or 4 days setting everything up. So if you want to come check it out, I will post about it on Instagram when it's ready to go. Bam! There will be address, all that kind of stuff. So now that we've got all the 411 that we needed, I think we're going to cut this visit short. After all, we are going to be back in just a couple days. We were trying to hold out forever. We've had this offer for a while, but we were trying to hold out forever, hoping that a full booth would become available. We could just start with the whole thing, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon, and I think we're ready to go. So we're ready for a new challenge. Not that this year hasn't already been really challenging in its own right. Allie in particular has mostly been extremely ill. This is one of her good days though, so we're out and about. And I myself was just in the hospital yesterday. Probably better to wait and explain that once we get home. Dude, you guys don't even know how many years I've been on and off the waiting list here. Just hoping that I would get in one day. I think the first time I asked to be on the list, I was gonna do a whole booth based around my band merch and like a bunch of punk stuff or whatever. That was 2004, maybe? So it's been a long dream. It's been a long dream. All right, well that's enough for the moment. Time to head back to the base and we'll talk about some other stuff. Ah, there we go. Home sweet home. I can think better with no mask on. For some reason there's something between brain and mouth that the mask confuses. So basically like 6 or 7 weeks ago now, just because I have some medication that I take that could potentially elevate your heart rate, I was asked to do an EKG. I did it. The EKG guys were all like, all right, you're cool, everything looks normal, your doctor will call you. And not until weeks later did I even think about it or remember that I did that. And then the doctor finally called and said, oh hey, you have some kind of heart problem. Which was like, wait, what? I have a what? No, you know, probably a little too much coffee that day or something. He goes, no, it's not a mistake. It could be nothing, it could be whatever, but you've got a heart issue. Sort of somewhat left me hanging on whether it was serious, not serious, or whatever. And it took about another 2 weeks to schedule an appointment to get a different kind of test. And I am currently undergoing that test. So under the shirt here, they have fixed a little device on me, sort of glued on this little monitor. See it right there? Which I'm supposed to wear for another week, and then that gets mailed back to somebody, and then it could take another 2 weeks to find out what's going on, if it's like super serious, or if I need to take some medication, or what they're gonna do about it. Basically, it's like a weird type of arrhythmia that's either no big deal, like it'll be like, oh yeah, it's there, but it's not a big deal, or it'll be like, oh, you know, it's there, but you take some pills, or it'll be like, oh, you need a pacemaker. It's something like that. At first, I was pretty stressed out about it, I'm not gonna lie. It kind of hit me weird, and I was like, I don't know, more anxious than anything, because it's sort of like if they told you, here's the best analogy that I've come up with in the last couple weeks. It's like someone told you, hey, listen, just to let you know, you might have a spider in your ear. We don't know for sure. It's probably not in there. Don't stick a Q-tip in there or anything. In a couple weeks, we'll let you know. It's like, what, you can't find out right now? So, I mean, pretty much it sort of set off crazy anxiety for me. I was a little stressed out and worried about it. Now I've done some more reading. I've been sort of thinking about it. It's been a couple weeks for me that I've known about this. And at the end of the day, it could be, and probably is, the most likely thing is that it's not going to be a big deal at all. It's not going to be some big problem. They're just going to have the test and go, you're fine, just something to keep an eye on for the future or whatever. But the reason that it gave me so much anxiety, where for a couple days I just like couldn't even think, was because they called and said, yeah, you might have this heart problem, so we need to schedule you to get this testing that they're doing, blah, blah, blah. No way to know for a couple weeks, that whole thing. And then I was like, okay, and just when I was sort of calming down from that, they called back like a couple of days later and said, in the meantime though, hey, just wanted to call back and let you know we haven't scheduled anything yet, but in the meantime, don't exercise or anything. And I was like, don't exercise? Like, don't exert yourself too much, don't exercise, you know, because you could faint or something like that. We don't want that to happen. And I'm like, so it is serious? And they're like, no, you know, it'll be a couple weeks till they can get you in there for the thing. And I made the dumb mistake. I keep making this mistake of talking to people about this who aren't doctors. I go, okay, so it's not urgent, so that's probably a good sign right there. I go, no, it's just where everything's really backed up because of the pandemic as far as these type of tests. So you know, we don't want to say it's bad, or we don't want to say it's, you know, just one of those weird non-committal things. So I was like, if it's bad, just tell me it's, you know, it's one of those things. So I've kind of been living with this for a couple weeks in my brain. It's probably no big deal, so that's why I didn't really want to say anything about it at first. But I have had this stupid sticker on now. They glued it, so they shave you with a little shaver that comes out of the box, which was not smooth. It was not like a Gillette razor or something. It was like on the chest, get the chest hair off. And then they glue it to your chest and right over the razor burn that they just made. So it's not very comfortable. It's a little itchy. I get a little claustrophobic, but I'm sure it's all going to be fine and work itself out. So that was a fun, weird trip to the hospital to get that. But until this is done, I still can't talk to him. It's just going to be a couple weeks until I know anything. Probably no big deal. But it was like one of those things where at first like, why can't we like do an ultrasound, or can you get a stethoscope? Can someone tell me something? So it does line up with weird sort of symptoms I've been having over the last year that I was worried were maybe related to the Lyme disease thing that I'd had to run in with a couple of years ago. But turns out they might be related to this. So it could be as simple as like, oh, you know, they already told me to cut out most of the caffeine, so I've cut caffeine intake by like 3/4 now out of paranoia and whatever. But it could be as simple as like, oh, take this pill, or it could be as simple as like, yeah, you know, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's just a arrhythmia. People live with them all the time. So you know, it's a weird thing. I wasn't gonna mention it at all, but just the stickers have been irritating me. It's on my mind, and it's just easier to just get it off my chest. Anyway, in the meantime, one of the very few things that sort of kept the anxiety out of my brain, it kept me busy, sort of in a nice zen state, has been coming out here to the garage and working on some weird projects. So you know me, I've always been obsessed with like hand-painted signs at roadside attractions, like DIY signs, like old weather-beaten, aged, handmade, like ticket booth or whatever. And I'm far from being a master craftsman or anything like that, but I decided to take, you know, 10 minutes or so per day and come out here and try my hand at making some stuff. Sort of all kind of different levels of stuff. I've got stuff like this, ye olde Mark Twain sign here, but I'm really interested in sort of the beat up, aged, scratch and dent, kind of hand-painted, loosey-goosey stuff. I mean, that's the stuff that I love seeing out there at roadside attractions. So you've got this side, which is more finely painted, and then this side a little rougher, more of a stencil look, you know, that kind of thing. A couple of different Mark Twains going on. And then anyway, as I was waiting to get scheduled for results, and then I was waiting for the various theme parks or working on the thing, and then I had a laptop die while I was working on the last time travel video, and I had 2 days where I couldn't use a laptop or edit anything, so I was just waiting for the backup computer to come in the mail and all that stuff. I went a little crazy. And I've made quite a few things out here. Like I said, I'm no master craftsman, so, you know, they're kind of folk artsy, you know, that kind of thing, like layered, old, rough, weather-beaten ticket sign here. Some of them, I don't know, I went a little wild and there's chains involved. These things I had started making for my Route 66 trips, you know, so I have a few of those. left over. Some of them are tributes to old attractions and real life signs, like that's a replica of something at Knott's Berry Farm, or this Main Street sign is a replica of something that's still at Knott's Berry Farm today. Others are roadside attraction inspired, but mostly come from your imagination. There's varying degrees of weathering, experimenting, painting stuff, staining stuff. Not to sound like too hoity-toity, but it's a little bit of an art project for me, you know, just doing the experimentating on weathering the various hand-painted signs. And this whole hall here, which I have no idea what to price things for or anything, so I'll have somebody else do all that if they go in the booth, which is where they're headed. But anyway, this massive hall here is it's not the end of it. Because I was doing all these random ones sort of for fun, you know, and I made that monorail in the garage over there, and my Confusion Hill sign with the nail sticking out of it. And then I thought to myself, it would be kind of cool to go overboard and do one cohesive, like, sort of art project with it, right? And so I spent way too much time making this giant, well, let me drag it out of here, it'll be easier to understand. Just gotta pick it up slowly. It's kind of heavy. Gotta be careful not to exert myself too much. Ooh. There we go. I made this. This is all out of my own head and brain. It's all hand painted and all that kind of stuff. Cut and weathered, worn and whatever. But the idea behind this art project, if you will, is not that it's a replica of anything. It isn't. It's all out of my own brain. But that it is a signpost that could have existed in Frontierland sometime in the early to mid 1960s. So you'll see all kinds of references and directions to things that were in the old Frontierland at Disneyland back in the day. It's funny because it looks so simple and easy now, but it took so long to do all this. And it was all done in sort of stolen 10-minute increments over a couple weeks, you know. And of course, since I'm a big history nerd when it comes to Disneyland, I had to add some Easter eggs back here. The true Disneyland history fans would appreciate, so I have no idea what to do with this thing. Nothing is printed or Mod Podge, it's all hand painted, and I am not a talented hand painter. So it took me a long time. It was a labor of love out here, you know, something to keep my mind off of my impending doom. The same thing with this, which is not quite finished, and also hard to get down. This monorail thing over here is like 5 feet long, and it took a while to layer on the shiny paint for the metallic sides, but the whole thing, it's supposed to be kind of janky and sort of DIY looking, well, professional's not the right word, but you know, I love the professional craftsmanship of like a Disneyland that employs all kinds of talented sign painters, and they do silk screening and all kinds of, you know, things like that. I love roadside attractions that are like Disneyland and planned out and built with financial backing and all that. But I also have a soft spot in my heart for the random, hastily thrown together, you know, out of scraps type roadside attraction or old roadside ghost town or something like that, where everything's sort of amateur and thrown together. So that was my kind of thing, this weird art project that I embarked on. It's a little bit of woodworking, if you could call it that. A little bit of painting and staining and random inspiration. Nothing stenciled or built to plan. Everything one of a kind and unique. And so this is the stuff that's going to go into the booth next week. So I'm pretty stoked for that. Oh, hold on. Get shortness of breath. I'm supposed to push the little thing. It's like a little Star Trek, like beam me up. Like there's a little clicker on there, and then you're supposed to say, oh yeah, I was getting a little short of breath. And who knows? Maybe I'm just out of shape. So there's a little bit of stuff to worry about, a little bit of stress going on over here, but also some stuff to be totally stoked and excited about, because I've had all these sort of stacking up like cordwood in the garage. And you know who's excited to get them out in the world and find better homes for them? This guy, me. Anyway, if you've noticed we had kind of a weird spring, that was the deal. I've been weeks waiting for this test thing to go on, and today was a good day. She was actually up and out with me, but Allie's had a lot of weird health problems again that we're trying to get her through, and then I had this whole thing, and everything was just crazy up in the air. But I'm very excited to get back to some more random adventures and just like doing random stuff again. As I kind of mentioned earlier, the masks are coming off in California, if you can believe it, at most places. I don't think the parks will remove them for a while. Literally in a matter of days, and a lot of what I was waiting for this year was to do with this test. It's seriously been like 6 or 7 weeks, or some crazy number of not going to do my plans because they're like, well, wait, because it might be this week that they're going to do the thing and all that stuff. So another week I mail this thing off and then I'm free and I'm off the chain. Now I have no idea what these things are going to cost. They're all one of a kind to go in the booth. But of course, we'll finally have a physical place to put Randomland t-shirts and pins and stuff like that. So there'll be a physical place to come and check those out. So I'm excited about that too. That'll be pretty awesome. So there should be something for everyone. Plus Allie makes all kinds of crazy stuff and she's got all kinds of vintage clothes and things, and I've got all kinds of stuff we've discovered over the years. Seriously, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I cannot wait to go stick in that booth. Anyway, as soon as we're set up, that will get posted on Instagram. So if you're not on the Instagram, somewhere down below in the thing, don't worry about this. This is probably no big deal. I hope so. I just wish they'd actually let me talk to the cardiologist so far, but I guess we'll get there and I'll just have to learn to be patient. Can't really control the circumstances. I can only control my reaction. So I'm just trying to stay mellow and cool and calm and positive and think of the future and all the crazy fun stuff that we're going to do now that I think the chapter, you know, the page is turning and we can move on. The Randomland podcast is back on Patreon. I'm excited to get back to some random adventures. Another thing that's happening in about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I'm going to be returning to somewhere pretty epic. Not theme park related in any way. So there are more adventures ahead. But for now, for today, we've done our duty. And like Allie is doing, because she's worn out now, it's time to go home and sleep well. Oh my gosh. It's a sign. By the way, guys, if you can't make it out to the orange circle to check out the booth, don't forget about store.randomland.com. We've got that. That's got some nifty gifties also. And if you are an actual cardiologist, hit me up. But otherwise, I'll let you guys know what happens. It's probably no big deal. I'll have, you know, pie on my face in 3 weeks. Like, it turned out it was nothing. I hope. So fingers crossed, everything's good. See you later.